Hey there, everybody. Welcome into another Monday morning Red Chip Heroes Poker Podcast. I'm your boy Chapadong. And of course, the Red Chip Heroes Poker Podcasts are brought to you by DFS Army and the Sharp app, where you can also join our free Discord and talk poker. Let's talk poker. I got to tell you, today's topic, top 3 tips to conquer pre-flop play, are going to touch on some intermediate topics. But again, we're focused a lot on the beginners because we're finding that our forum is growing beginners. Getting people interested in poker, getting people talking about poker and playing tournaments and playing cash games and all of that good stuff. If you're interested in that type of commentary or that type of discussion or that type of community, you need to follow the link in the description down below and join our Discord. Get in there and get talking. You want to get in on something that's growing from the ground floor up? You want to be in on something from the beginning that's going to get big and get great? This is your chance. Don't let opportunity pass you by. Who knows what role might develop for you if you become a self-starter and you really jump in here. There's all sorts of leadership roles and things that we're looking for people that are active, helpful, self-starters. Those types of people always do well inside Sharp App and DFS Army communities, and now the poker community. So let's dive in without further ado to Red Chip Heroes Poker Podcast. 3 tips to conquer pre-flop play. I got to get this bad boy going. Here we go. 3 tips to conquer that pre-flop play. Position, position, position. That is the ultimate when it comes to information gathering and making correct decisions. The more decisions you make correctly when compared to your opponents, the better you're going to play. The more of their money you're going to take. It's just that simple. Linear versus polarized ranges. What do they mean? How do we use them? High card strength for shorter stacks. At what point do we start shifting our focus and start shifting the ranges of hands that we play? We're going to cover all of that here in the next few slides. So buckle up, like, subscribe the video, use the notification bell to ding yourself when you know that new content is coming, and let's get moving. Because first, we want to discuss the pre-flop decision. Pre-flop decisions, you make them every hand. You know, when you're studying poker, and you're looking into where should I study, where should I focus, what should I try and do, you are going to make a pre-flop decision on every hand you play. Either bet, fold, call, raise, re-raise, shove, whatever it is. You're making a pre-flop, even if it's just folding, you're making a pre-flop decision on every single hand you play. That's where most of your study should be. Now, as you get more seasoned as a poker player and you start getting a little bit deeper into other concepts and you have the pre-flop play kind of down, you should still be reviewing it quite often to make sure you're not out of line with yourself. But yeah, it's going to free up time to start studying other things. I study pre-flop play probably 80% of the time when I'm studying. It's like your free throws, like your layups in basketball. You never get away from the fundamentals. Going to the driving range, honestly, hitting putts, hitting little chip shots, short wedge shots, that's your deal. That's your bread and butter. Most of the time, you're closer to the hole because eventually you got to get the ball in the hole, right? That's the exact same thing as a pre-flop poker hand. It starts somewhere. Work your way backwards and spend a little bit less time maybe with the driver in your hand, with the half-court granny shot for the Dr. Pepper car or whatever. Spend more time on what you're going to be doing more often, and that's pre-flop in poker. Pre-flop and flop play make up more of your play, more of your time, more of your decisions than any other street. That's why you should focus your study there. So that's why we're talking about pre-flop play today. The hand of the week, however, if you remember that last week, we did a little hand of the week action, and it went over really, really well. We had a nice discussion hand. This one, not so much, but this one's kind of a fun one to talk about. Played in a tournament earlier this week. The APO Ameristar Poker Open was in town here in St. Louis and St. Charles. And I, of course, ran down to play cash games because I'm a cash game guy, and I love it when tournament players, tournaments, and this is a little off topic, but tournament players and cash game players are a little different. Usually, it's pretty hard to play both formats well. Usually, you kind of specialize in one or the other. It's kind of like baseball and softball, if you will, in that the rules are basically the same. It's the same game, but there's little nuances between the two that make up enough of a difference that a poker player will generally focus on one or the other. A lot of you guys like tournaments, and that's great. So we played in a tournament. We played in a tag team event, which is really wild. Not like the World Series of Poker out in Vegas. This one's a little bit different. They yell switch at random. Anywhere between about 5 minutes And 30 minutes after the last switch, they yell switch again. And you have to get up and you have to go find your partner. You know he's over at table 41, seat 6. But you have to go find your partner and you have to sit in on his hand and he has to go sit in on yours. You're playing his stack and he's playing yours. There's no time in between the switching to really do a lot of talking about, this guy, that guy. Plus, all of the tables are changing, so your table's going to be different than his. We had a hand... Let's just go way off the rails. I played in this tournament 3 or 4 times, and I've never really had critical switches before where my guy had to come in and had no idea what I was doing, right? He just looked at my cards and I was like, what the hell is going on? But we had it happen about 3 times this tournament, one of which I had a hand that I had raised from late position. Remember? Position. I was in late position and I had a limper or 2 in front. I raised up to whatever the heck an appropriate raise size was at the time with ace queen offsuit, trying to isolate the pot, take it heads up or take it down right then and there. And I got 1 caller and the damn board came out 4, 5, 7 or some disaster for ace queen. And I'm like, man, I don't want to c-bet this hand because it hits their range a lot more than it hits mine. That person probably connected with that damn flop somehow, some way, and isn't going to go anywhere for a single bet. And I don't want to blow through my stack by bluffing with a good hand like ace queen that can win at showdown if there's no pair. So I checked it back, and I'm getting set up. If I see a good turn card, then I'll go ahead and fire in a little bit of a bet. And the damn turn card completed a one-liner to the straight. It was like the 6. So I had 4, 5, 6, 7 or some crap. And I was like, if I get checked to, I'm still going to bet, right? I'm still going to throw in that little bet. A lot of times I can get weaker aces to call me. I can get draws, single card draws to call me. I might get, junky stuff to kind of fold out a little bit, pocket 3s, something like that I beat because it looks like I might have hit the straight. But to be honest with you, it also earns me a check on the river where I can check it back, take the free showdown with my ace high, and maybe win the pot there on somebody who busted off a draw that doesn't want to bet in case I have the straight and bet into me. I guess you're getting 2 bonus hands this week. But they yelled switch right in the middle of that plan. The turn card hit, I looked down, said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to bet at me or not? I'm looking at the lady, and all of a sudden the guy goes, switch! And I was like, damn it! It's I'm screwed. I can't tell my partner that we just got screwed. I can't do anything. All I can do is walk by him and go, I don't know what to tell you, man, but it's going to be interesting when you get there. And he texted me later and said, what in the hell was that? I explained the hand to him. He's like, yeah, that's reasonable, but there's no way in this format. There's no way to tell your partner. It's really kind of a fun way to play, and it happened to us 2 or 3 times in that tournament. Anyway, back to the original hand of the week because it was from this tag team tournament. And I could talk about 5 or 6 hands. I folded 10s to a set when I had ace 10 and the guy flopped a set of 10s. I dodged aces a couple. I had aces. I had ace king get in against ace queen. And of course the guy rivers the queen and screws me over. But this is the hand that I felt was a little bit more definitive because it's the hand that really had a critical decision to make. The blinds had gotten up a little bit higher. We're at 500,000. If you don't know what a big blind ante is, that means that if I'm in the big blind, not only do I put out 1,000, but I also have to put out another 1,000. So it can really put a bite in your ass. And I only had 7,000 starting chips. Now here I'm under the gun +2. So the blinds are coming, man. That big blind ante is coming. And I've got to look for something kind of reasonable to maybe get a little bit aggressive with. Because I've only got 7,000 chips left, and if I get dinked down to 5,000 chips by putting 2,000 in the middle, I'm pretty critically stacked at that point. I'd like to not get there. So I'm running out of chances, though. And lo and behold, under the gun goes all in for his 11,000 chips. He had me covered, and he just open ripped it. And I was like, damn, that could be a lot of stuff. It could be a lot of crap, too. He could be getting desperate, too. I don't know. I look down, I see red jacks. Jack of diamonds, jack of hearts. And I'm like, I guess this is where we die, boys, because this hand is just way too strong to fold to whatever that opening range could be out of that player. It could be ace king. It could be, who knows? It could be pocket 8s. It could be a whole bunch of stuff that we beat. So you're ahead often enough. It's time to just go ahead and call. Anyway, wiggling around here. Noisy household, bear with me. But before Hero even acted, he hears two players behind him mumble, "Well, I guess we're priced in if he calls." Oh my God. That is like a live poker player's donkey call. That's what you're going to hear so often. "Well, I guess I'm priced in." And then they get in there with crap. It's the king four suited and, pocket threes. "I was priced in to set hunt my three." No, you weren't. But that's what they say. That's a big tip. If you want a live tell, that's a big tip in terms of a guy that's not a very good poker player. If he starts saying things like, "Well, I guess I'm priced in. I guess I can't fold for that price." Ding, 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 ding. Bells should be going off in your head that you're probably a better player than that guy. Anyway, does that change? If one or two of those guys get in there, does that change your action? Would you actually fold pocket jacks there, not wanting to take them three ways or not wanting to take them four ways for your tournament life? That's the question. Does it change what you would do? Now, some of you are probably going to say no. Some of you might say yes. I will reveal the situation at the end. So stick through the poker podcast here today. Let's get through those 3 tips, and let's talk about that hand at the end. Back on the rails. Position is key. Position is key. Like I said, position. I've already said it like 4 times, and if you've checked out our other podcasts, I've already said it back there too. Don't memorize charts precisely. You don't need to know that 8-7 suited is a call, but 8-6 suited is a fold here, so I've got to adhere directly to the charts. No! Just get close, right? Like if you're 1 click or 2 off the charts, it's not that big of a deal. Now, if it says to fold 10-8 suited, don't go open raising with 10-4 suited. That's way off the charts. But if you're doing the whole 10-9, 10-8, 10-7 on the button, okay, fine. That's not so critical, okay? Get close. You don't have to memorize those charts exactly. We're going to throw a lot of charts at you on these poker podcasts. But don't memorize them precisely. Study them, look at them, get very, very familiar with them to where you've almost got them memorized. But don't worry about those critical cusp points. They're just not all that important when it comes to exerting all of your brain's energy. We should be tight early, and we should loosen up late. It's kind of funny. Early on when we have, again, position, we have no information. There's a lot of people that act behind us that could have real hands or could make moves on us. So we need to play powerful cards that can really do the fighting without the information and really stick up for themselves, right? But however, in late position, cutoff, button, when everybody folds around to us, we've got all the information in the world. Everybody had crap. They all folded. So we don't need to worry too much about them. We only got to worry about these extra 2 or 3 players to get through. Now we can loosen way up because not only 8-4 suited, 10-7 suited, ace-3 suited, maybe even something like queen-9 offsuit or something like that. All of a sudden, boom, we raise it. That guy doesn't know. Does he have ace-king? Does he have pocket tens? Does he have junk? What does he have? I don't know. But he's out of position to us the rest of the way because we're sitting there on the cutoff or the button, right? And it's like he has to check to us. He has to bet into us, and we can make much, much better decisions going forward. Also, always raise when you're the first one in. Don't limp. Don't let it go fold down to you in the cutoff, and you just go, well, I've got 8-4 suited, so I guess I'll just put in the $2 and call. No, screw that. Take initiation in the hand. Be the guy that tells you don't know if I got 8-4 suited or if I've got pocket aces. The minute you limp and you're in that late position, you go, $2, or I just call. I automatically know that you don't have shit. You'd have raised with it. You don't have real cards. And I can then all of a sudden raise you, bluff you, bet into you, and steal your money. And you had all the information pre-flop. You had all the information going into the hand. Then you could have completely screwed me over, but instead I'm screwing you over because you're a wuss. Don't be a wuss. Always raise first in. Do not limp. If there's one singular tip that you could be given, that is a big one. Most players, however, play way too loose early on, and they play too tight late. They have what is called static ranges. Your ranges should be dynamic. Your ranges should fluctuate. And you'll see this in this podcast, both looser or tighter depending on your opponents, depending on your position, depending on your stack size, depending on a lot of factors. But most players play a static range. Well, I like suited broadways, any 2 cards 10 or higher, suited aces, and whatever. So they see king 10 suited under the gun, and they go, oh, raise. And they wonder why they get called by king queen and get fleeced. Shouldn't be playing that hand up there, up front like that early. You can if you're a really, really good player, but if you're watching this poker podcast, you ain't good enough yet. Okay? Now, when you're later in position, that's when you should be raising those, like I said, 8-4 suiteds. But these guys don't do that. Okay? They play a static range. Well, I never raise 8-4 suited. It's a crappy hand. They don't adjust for being in position. Okay? So basically, I call them chart monkeys. Those guys that really do try to memorize all of the charts and things. And I can be one myself, but like I said, you want to actually adhere loosely to those charts and change off of the situation. Now, the deeper stacks, the deeper your stack, the more chips you have, the looser you can play. You've got a little bit more freedom. If you remember from the last poker podcast, you got a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more wiggle room, right? And then last but not least, exploit that position and that information that you're getting. That's huge. Huge. When it goes bet, raise, re-raise in front of you, my God, you know the guy's got monsters. You know you can get out of there with your marginal hand. If you were up front and you threw $50 in the pot and then it went re-raise, raise, whatever, and you're like, oh crap, I made a mistake. Well, guess what? You just burned $50. That me in position, I just saved $50. I didn't have to put that money out there because I got the information before I had to act, not after. Make sense? Moving on. Under the gun versus button ranges. This is what I'm talking about tightening up. Here's an example for you. If I'm under the gun, I might play a range, I mean, not even this wide, really. But, your suited aces, king 8 suited and better, queen 9 suited, jack 9 suited, 10. I pulled this basic range off of the internet. It's more of an 80 big blind tournament stack opening range. If you're playing 100 big blind, 200 big blind deep cash games, you're probably not raising ace 3, ace 4 suited from under the gun, ace 7, 8 suited for sure, king 8, king 9, queen 9, jack, maybe. None of these probably are in there. You might not be raising pocket 5s or 6s. You're probably on a range, really and truly, that's like 7s or 8s plus ace, king, ace, queen, probably not king, queen, probably, queen, jack suited, jack 10 suited. Some of your suited broadways, but maybe not queen 10 or king 10 type hands, and probably none of these below an ace 10 suited except for maybe ace 5. That's about it. That's really tight. But that's what can stand a punch and do a bunch of, if you're just betting for value, when you hit your ace or you hit your queen, you've got a big kicker and you're just go, 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 right? Within reason. Now, as we get towards the button, this is an opening range for the button. Look at how many more hands you picked up. Jack 9 offsuit, fine. Queen 8 offsuit, fine. 10-7 offsuit, fine. 7-5 suited, 6-4 suited, 6-3 suited, 5-3, fine. 10-3 suited, Jack 4 suited, Queen 5 suited, fine. In fact, if I've got 2 little old men in the blinds that don't ever raise or don't hardly ever play any hands, I can be wider than this. I can open any 2 cards against those guys. And I'm probably going to be able to play them profitably because I'm mostly stealing the blinds. I'm mostly just taking their money, and then when they resist, okay, I'll play a little bit straight up from there. But they're not going to resist very often because they probably play a static range like this only. And then all of these hands, when they hold all of these hands that they're just going to fold, when I hold those hands, I pick their blinds up. Thank you. Thanks for shopping. Moving on. Okay? So I just, as a general pictorial look, overview, you can be this tight up front, you can be this loose deep. And most players don't do that. Most players, if this is their range under the gun, and this is their range on the button. Whereas we need to be more dynamic players, and you know how much harder it is to play against me if I've got Jack 4 suited and 10-5 suited and 10-6 suited on the button. When I raise under the gun and I'm only on this little range here, like Queen Jack suited, Ace 8 suited, whatever, and you still think, well, man, I've seen him with Jack 5 suited. That guy is wild. No, he's not. No, I'm not. I'm wild on the button. I'm not wild under the gun. You're going to make a mistake and think that I'm wild under the gun, and you're going to get in there with Queen 8 suited, and you're going to wonder why you just got screwed. Because I'm in there with King Queen suited, and I dominate you. We've both flopped the queen. You've got queen 8 kicker. I've got king kicker, and I just go bet, 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 and I take $120 from you. Those are the fundamentals of poker. That's what we're talking about here in this podcast. Exploiting positional awareness. Be aware of your position, right? Adjust the ranges in the charts based on your opponents, like you just saw. Tighten up early, loosen up late. If your opponents fold too much, expand your range even more. Like I said, if there's 2 old men in the blinds, I can play any 2 cards from the button and not care. If they call too much, though, I'm going to tighten my range down a little bit. I'm not going to be doing it with 10-6 suited or 10 or 8-4 suited or any of that jazz. Right? I'm just not going to. Most players are too wide under the gun and too tight on the button. They don't have 8-4 suited in their range. Button ranges, most players in poker don't raise 10-6 suited on the button. They don't raise 4-3 suited on the button. They don't raise 8-5 suited, king-6 offsuit on the button. Those are all viable hands to raise. They don't do it. Their range is a little bit too tight. They should open up more, but they don't. And they leave money on the table because of it. As well as under the gun ranges out of a lot of these players, ace-10 offsuit. Some people don't raise that. Or they do and they shouldn't. You know, I've seen guys that raise crap like Jack-8 suited from under the gun. That's way too wide. Way too wide. You're setting yourself up to be dominated. You're setting yourself up to never know where you stand in a hand, and you're setting yourself up to just burn money. King-9 suited, Queen-8 suited, same. All hands that are easily dominated. Stop raising those hands from under the gun. If opponents don't 3-bet, however, like I can open raise and they don't 3-bet, then I should be raising more. Not from early position, right? Not from early position. I don't want to raise King-9 suited from under the gun and then just get called by King-Queen suited by some old man, right? I don't want to do that. I want to in position, though. When the old man raises, or when the old man limps, let's say, his King-10 suited or King-Queen suited, and I have, Ace-King, I'm going to raise it. He's not going to 3-bet me, or he's not going to then re-raise me when it comes back to him. Okay? A lot of these players don't play aggressively enough, and therefore we can really pin them. They'll play aggressive with aces and kings and whatever, and so when they don't act aggressively, we know they don't have that. It can help us read their hands a little bit easier and then navigate. If I saw your cards, if you saw my cards, and you bet when you were ahead of me and folded when you were behind me, you'd make a ton of money off of me no matter what. It doesn't matter what cards you play anymore, right? So when these old men are sitting out there, or say this recreational, mid-40s business guy comes in from out of town and he doesn't know how to play cards, he's just there to play for a few hours and he just calls all the time, he never raises. Well, you don't really know what he has when he's calling, but man, when he raises, he's got the nuts and you just get out of the way. Very easy to play against players like that, okay? So if they don't raise and they don't 3-bet and they don't, do a lot of that aggressive behavior, it makes it a little bit easier to play against them, especially if you're in position. Now, let's talk a little bit about 3-betting, okay? 3-betting is re-raising. Like you raised to $15 and I 3-bet you to $45. This is something that we should be doing a lot of in position, okay? And we'll talk about 2 ways to do it. One is a linear range and one is a polarized range. A linear range is just straight best hands. Everything up at the top is what I'm going to do. A polarized range is the best hands and then some bluffs. So I've got some great stuff and I've got some junk. And you don't know which. And I'm going to kind of call with the stuff in between. Okay? The best hands only and no bluffs is a way to exploit one type of opponent, and then the polarized, with best hands and some bluffs is a way to exploit another type of opponent. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I do want to show you here, this is an example of, let's double check this really quickly, the small blind. This is a raising range from the small blind, a 3-betting range. Let's say fold, fold, fold. Some guy raises from the hijack to 15, and then the cutoff folds, the button folds, and you're sitting in the small blind, and you have Queen-10 suited. If that's a hand that you want to play, a hand that you're going to play, and that's don't just call. Re-raise. 3-bet it. $50. Why? because you're out of position for every decision from here on out. Take the pot now. You don't have the strongest of cards. You've got pretty good cards. Force him to make a decision. Does he want to call, or was he on crap? Because he, if he's playing correctly, should be on a little wider range than if he was under the gun or something like that. And you should be getting some folds here, and you just take the hand without a fight. If you just call, and then probably the flop comes out king 7-4, and you just check, and then he bets, and you fold. You didn't defend anything, right? And you don't know what he had. He could have had pocket threes. You don't know. Okay? If you're going to play these hands from the small blind, really and truly, you should not be calling from the small blind very often, if at all. If you're going to play the hand, re-raise it. You're on a tight range, but you're re-raising it. It's kind of an example of a linear range, too, because it doesn't matter what card you're playing. If it's in your range, you're raising. Now, in later position, an example of the polarized range is, let's say that it fold gets around to the cutoff. And the cutoff is one guy to the right of the dealer button. Let's say that the cutoff raises. He raises to $10. Now, there's a lot you're going to do here. When you're sitting on the button and you are in position, you're going to mix in the three bets. These are your three betting hands: aces, kings, queens, king, queen suited, ace, queen suited, etc. A little bit of queen 10 maybe, or queen 9, whatever hand you pick. Ace 10 off, maybe ace 9 off, whatever. Ace 5 suited, maybe a 6, 7 suited, whatever. Not going to get too carried away with those hands, but you're going to have your value hands here, the hands that are way ahead of about everything anybody can have, and then you're going to have a couple of bluffs thrown in there for a little bit of deception. So every time you raise or re-raise the guy, he doesn't go, well, he's only got aces. He's every once in a while sees that you have something goofy and goes, oh, well, then I need to call this guy. And then when you do have aces and you do have kings, you get them paid. Okay, because that's really the name of the game. You're raising an ace 5 suited and an ace 10 off suit, or a jack 8 suited, whatever hand you kind of pick. You're raising that hand because you're really and truly just setting yourself up to get your aces and your kings paid someday down the road. Okay? Now, what other hands might you call with? Because if you're raising some of these bluffs and you're raising some of these great big value hands, what other hands might you call with? Well, everything in between. Okay, so I call. So he knows that I don't have aces or kings. He doesn't know I don't have ace king or ace queen or king queen or king jack suited or ace jack suited. I've still got some pretty strong stuff in there. I might also have pocket 7s, 7-8 suited for a little bit of, a little bit of big hand hunting. Okay, I couldn't show these two together because I don't have different colors and things like that. But I just want you to see that these hands kind of are on the outside of this range, and then these hands kind of fill in all the middle. Whereas over here on this side, this is all just straight up. It is what it is. This one has a couple of different ranges to it, okay? That's a little complicated. Jump in the Discord, talk. We'll talk back and forth. We'll get it all sorted out. But I just wanted to show you that when you're in position and you've got some cutoff guy who's raising pretty wide, that you can isolate him or re-raise him for value with your big hands, a couple of bluffs, because he's doing it too often. He's going to fold a lot. And then you can call with some pretty darn decent stuff. And you can get in there and really mix it up. So, small blind, anything you play, 3-bet it. If you're out of position the rest of the hand, it's very, very hard to realize your equity with marginal hands out of position. It just is. I've played on poker trainers and practice thousands of hands, and I'll set myself up to only be dealt hands in position, only be dealt hands, even good cards. And it is just really hard to have a profitable session if that's the only place you get your cards that day. Really hard. It's worth practicing, but it's really hard. Now, the cutoff versus button scenario, you call with the in-between hands, keep the pot a little smaller, control the hand because he's kind of got a bet into you or whatever, but you're raising with your really, really strong hands and you're raising with some really, really weak hands. Now, again, there are two common exploits in blue and yellow here. You would use a linear range if your opponent calls too much. If that guy is a splashy player, I just want to see a flop. You hear these guys all the time. I just want to see the flop. I just want to see a flop cheap. Man, screw you. I'm going to pound your ass right into oblivion. Because you just told me that you're playing a bunch of crap. You're playing hands you shouldn't be playing. So I'm going to use a linear range. I'm not just going to use aces and kings and ace king. I'm going to come down at the top end of my range. I'm going to come down to ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, king queen, king jack, hands like that against a tighter player aren't profitable, but against a looser player who's in there with king 9 suited or king 6 of spades or whatever, then king 10 suited blasts that guy. So I'm going to use those cards because I know they're ahead of your range. I'm going to use those cards to set you up for spots, for hands where I am ahead of you and I've got more equity than you and I am going to win more pots than you and I'm getting more information than you anyway. I'm just putting myself in a more profitable situation more often. So you would use a linear range if your opponent calls too much. If he's playing too many hands. When you raise and he calls, if he's doing it too often, expand your range, but do it linearly. Do it kind of from the top down. Ace king, king queen, queen jack, whatever. Add it on the way down. Now, the yellow exploit is to use a polarized range. Polarized. All the good stuff, a little bit of the bad stuff, nothing in between, right? So I've still got my aces, my kings, my ace king, and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to add in some of the junk, the ace 5, the 6, 7. I'm going to add in some of that crap to add to the polarized end of my range. If that opponent folds too much and doesn't fight back, let's say you run across some really weak, tight player at the poker table and you just notice every time he raises, he folds. Add bluffs. That's how you exploit him. Add bluffs. When he calls, okay, you're done with the hand, right? Because you got crap. But when he doesn't call and he folds and folds and folds and folds and folds, add some bluffs, and you're just printing money. You're just taking his money because he's playing weak. Okay? It's an easy game. The easiest way to play this game is to play better hands in a better range than your opponent and then just build bigger pots. That's it. And at the low stakes live play or low stakes small buy-in tournaments, these players are all over the place, and they're very, very easy to beat over the long run. Now, point 3, high cards, short stacks. High cards for short stacks. Sexy hands, your 6, 7 suited, your ace deuce, and all that kind of stuff are great when you're deep stacked and you have big pots you can win because you're drawing to the nut flush and all sorts of stuff. You've got what's called implied odds on a lot of money. Those hands do very well in that situation. However, those sexy hands go way down in value when the stacks get shorter because you just don't have any freedom. You don't have any flexibility. You don't have any maneuverability anymore. It's like I raised to $20 pre-flop and you call and I've only got $40 left in my stack and an ace hits the flop and I've got an ace 3. I got top pair and you could have a bunch of other kind of stuff, so I guess I have to go all in and the hand's over. There's no drawing. There's no finesse. There's no nothing. So those sexy hands go way down in value when those stacks get short. If you end up with top pair, it's just time to get it in on those short stacks. And that's tournament play, late stage tournament play a lot. You're looking to flop top pair, you're looking to bust it in. And that's where tournament players suck at cash games. They go to a cash game with a deeper stack, they play it like they got a short stack in a tournament, and they play their deeper stack in a cash game, while us regular cash gamers sit there and open our mouths and say, feed me. Feed me, feed me, feed me. Thank you for overvaluing top pair. Top pair is not the nuts in a deep stack situation. It is in a short stack situation. It is not in a deep stack situation. Stop pushing that top pair all in because a cash game player is going to sit back and just nom, 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 eat you like Pac-Man. Your range should shift as your stack shifts, though. Like as your stack gets deep, loosen up. Bluff a little more. High cards go up in value as your stack gets shorter and shorter and shorter, so you get rid of the drawing hands and you start playing more of the king, queen, king, jack, king, 10 type hands, right? Effective stacks matter because when you're in a tournament, effective stacks, you got to be looking at the other guy's stack too. If I have 10 million chips and you have 3 chips, I don't play my stack like it's 10 million chips. I can only win 3 chips from you anyway, so we're going to play top pair, we're going to go with it against you. It gets complicated when there's 4 guys or 5 guys in the hand, but when it's just me versus you, the effective stack is the shorter one. It's all either one of us can win. So that's what dictates and determines how important those top pair high card hands are. So when you get in the hand and you raise, and you need to look before the hand even starts, where's my short stack? What if he gets in the pot? Where's my deep stack? What if he gets in the pot? How do I adjust accordingly? Then look down at your cards, then play the hand accordingly. Sometimes you don't know until they start calling and raising and whatever else, but you get an idea. You're looking for the right things going into the hand. Effective stacks matter. Okay, you can bluff more when you're deeper stacked because you've got more. You can take a little more of a hit. You can be wrong a little bit. You can't be wrong on a short stack. You can be wrong on a deeper stack. Get out of the hand, live to fight another day. But when you're short stacked, there's going to be less 3-betting of polarized ranges because the bluffs are gone. And there's going to be less calling to see a flop, right? That fish move, I'm going to call and see a flop. No, none of that. You're playing power poker on a short stack. That guy bets into me, boom. If I'm going with it, I'm going with it. I'm shoving it all in. See you later. Or, in some cases, and this is more of a nuanced, intermediate philosophy, but let's say we know the stacks are so short that we're going in, we're not going to maybe do the pushing, but we know that we're not folding either. This is it. This is the hand. This is where we're going with it. Then you're an aggressive opponent. If you're a passive opponent, I'm betting into you. If you're an aggressive opponent, I'll let you bet into me. If I'm on one of those short stacks, they didn't go anywhere anyway. Because I'm going to let you bluff into me and try and blow me out of a hand. Hey, he's on a short stack. He's probably going to fold. If he doesn't have any cards, he's going to fold. Wait, he's not folding. Oh, crap. He's not folding. Oh, crap. We're all in. Oh, shit, I doubled him up. He had aces. You can do both. Okay, and you need to change your game up a little bit, and you need to learn when to do which. And that's another thing for those Discord groups to sit in and talk about. There you go. Go ahead. Read ahead. I'll give you a few minutes. There's your hand of the week. There's your reveal. We called, of course. We called the all-in with 7,000 left at 500. I said 5,000, 5,000. Look at me. What a terrible typo that is. 500, 1,000, 1,000. When you know a player or two are going to call behind you, yes, you still call. You still call. It's pocket jacks. Where are you going? Fourth best hand in poker. Where are you going? We called, as did the other two, the priced in dog. Oh, I'm priced in. I have to see a flop now. I have to call. No, you don't. Not if you knew that guy shoved all his chips in with a really tight range, and I called with a tighter range. You're an idiot if you're calling, well, I could triple up here. Yeah, I guess you could. But you're not gonna. You just burned off chips. So anyway, the two donkeys called. We're in a 4-way all-in, which is fine with Jack-Jack. I mean, I was expecting to be dead. There's a lot of aces, a lot of kings, a lot of crap out there. But it's okay. And when I ran the ranges, when I ran the poker ranges in the poker calculator, Jack-Jack versus what the first guy had, even on a range of, say, pretty tight range of, I don't know, top 10% of hands. And then the other guy's calling because they were priced in. Man, they don't have aces, they don't have kings because they didn't re-isolate or re-shove the situation. Instead, they just called, which means they don't have monster cards. They probably could be as wide as 25 to 35, 40% of hands. When I gave them that range, we had 35 to 40% equity. Meaning, we are going to win that hand 35 to 40% of the time. Now, granted, we're losing. We're out of the tournament. We're gone. We're toast. Way more than 50% of the time. 60 to 65% of the time, we out. We're gone. And that's just the breaks. That's just how it goes. But when we do win 30 or 40% of the time, we hit all 4 stacks and we quadruple up and we're sitting on a good stack. So again, it's a good gamble to take. It's a good, you've got good odds. It's a good position to be in. We found out on the flop we were the only player with a pair. I don't know what the other two guys had. Ace 10, ace 6, I don't know what they had. But the guy in front of us had ace jack of spades, and we had the only, and there was no, we had an over pair to the board. I think it came like 9 high or something crazy like that. And we had jacks, and we all of a sudden we looked down and we're like, holy crap, we're in a good position. Our equity jumped to a decent percentage of time. We're going to win the pot. Knowing that we're not going to win it all the time, of course, but we're in a good spot. We flopped as well as we could have. We're looking for a clean run out, and it went spade, turn, and river. And the guy flips over ace, jack of spades, and we're toast. See you later. He had one of our jacks too, but it is what it is. That we hit the rail. That was the end of the tournament. But it was a fun tournament. It was a fun format, a fun way to play. And I will do it again. Good way to play with a friend and whatever else. So 3 tips to conquer Preflop. If you have hands like that, put them in the comments section. Come into our Discord and post hands. We love talking about specific hands and dissecting the hands and kind of figuring out what we should have done, what we did wrong, what we did right. It's how you get to be a better poker player anyway. 3 tips to conquer Preflop. Just a quick summary. Position is key. Position is key. Less hands early, more hands late. That's your bullet point. Play tight early, play looser late. Don't get too crazy, don't get too off the charts, but be close and play tighter hands early, more looser hands late. Linear versus polar 3-betting. Adjust your range, exploit your opponent. Does he call too much? Then value bet linearly, 3-bet linearly. Include the king jack suited because he's probably playing king 9 or king 7 suited. Okay? Does he fold too much? Bluff him more. Get in there with that ace 5 suited. Let it rip. He's probably going to fold anyway. If he doesn't, okay, you know what to do. High cards for shorter stacks. Once again, power poker. High cards go up in value when you have a short stack because you just don't have any flexibility or any maneuverability to call and check and, see the next card. No, make top pair, get in there with it, or make top pair and don't fold when they bend into you. If they get you, they get you. But generally speaking, that's how you play. That's how you play pre-flop. Those are your best 3 tips to conquer pre-flop. Guys, thanks for helping the channel grow. Red Chip Heroes hashtag, Chapadong, DFS Army, the Sharp app out on X, Twitterland, if you want to call it that. Join that Discord. I'll put the link down there at the bottom. And once again, Red Chip Heroes brought to you by DFS Army, the Sharp app. I'm your boy Chapadong. Happy Monday to you. Hopefully we have a great week. Let's go play some poker. Let's go win some money. And let's come into the Discord and let's brag about it. All right, everybody. Have a great Monday. We'll talk to you later. See you.